That was cool. I just made butter. Hey friends, my name is George Gianaris. I'm a chef of 36 years, and if you're here, it's probably because you like to save money, eat healthy, and cook like a pro. And sometimes when you save money, you do it for the long run. Butter is not inexpensive, but if you eat good ingredients now, you'll be better for your health, and everybody knows that if your health isn't right, it's ridiculously expensive in the long run. We're gonna talk about a lot of butters here today. Some are grass-fed, some are organic, some are not. Some of these are called ghee, but what is ghee? And what is grass-fed? And what's the difference between organic butter and non-organic butter? Does it really make a difference? In order to answer these questions, we gotta know a little bit more about cows and a little bit more about milk. Cows are raised mostly for two reasons: for their milk and for their meat. Some are allowed to graze freely, and some never set foot on grass again after a certain age. Grass-fed cows, they only eat grass, but they're allowed to eat hay, so in the wintertime when they don't go out, they're fed hay. Different than pasture-raised. Pasture-raised means that they're only allowed to eat grass from the ground. The agency in the United States that sets the standard for that is the American Grass-Fed Association, or the AGA. They have very strict standards as to what cattle can consume. If you're only into pasture-raised, there is no set standard in the United States for that. So you have to kind of develop a relationship with a local farmer. And there's a rise in the production of milk and beef from grass-fed cows. But is milk or beef from a grass-fed cow any better? Pasture-raised cattle is truly the most humane way of raising cattle. That's what they are used to eating. Their stomach is unique. It's able to take grass and convert it to protein. When you feed a cow something like corn or soy, they can eat it, but it's similar to taking a human being and putting them on a potato chip diet. So why did we switch in the 1900s to feeding cattle corn? There's a list of reasons why cattle ranchers switched to corn. Well, number one, corn was cheap. Number two, you need less real estate when you're raising cattle on grains. In a PBS interview with former editor at Harper's Magazine, Michael Pollan, who turned small-scale rancher, he states that corn allows you to urbanize your livestock population in America. You can bring all the animals into a small space. You can have 50 or 100,000 cattle next to each other. When you get the chance, you have to read that article. The link to it and all the resources that I reference are in the description of this video down below. I also need your help a little bit. See, I'm a relatively new channel, and what happens when you hit like or you leave a comment down below, it triggers some kind of thing in YouTube's algorithm that makes YouTube put this video out for other viewers to watch. It goes on their feed. So if you like this video, hit that like button. If you have something to say, leave a comment down below. It really helps me out a lot. These cow cities are so crammed with cows. The smell of these places is overwhelming, and it's not the smell of a cow on a farm. It's the smell of the bus station in a men's room. The terrible conditions that overcrowded cows live in causes them to get sick, and in order to avoid them from being ill, they have to give them a lot of antibiotics. Also, Pollan says in that interview that there's so much feces caked onto the outside of the cow when they go to slaughter that they have to use a special method to slaughter the animal. They're effective at it. They can get rid of 99.9% of the feces, but they're so concerned about an E. coli outbreak that they literally have to irradiate the meat just to make sure 100% that there's no bacteria on it. We're using so many antibiotics in livestock that these drugs, they no longer work for us. But isn't it interesting that we don't go back and just look at the whole system? Cattle ranchers get to pick the weight and growth weight and slaughter date of the cattle. A cattle rancher specifically tells the people at this cow city when they want to harvest that cow and what weight they want that cow to be. Then they give it a special formula of food that Pollan refers to as oil. And the reason why he calls it an oil is because the corn that they use to feed these cows is made with a fertilizer that comes from a petroleum-based product. So basically, the food we feed them is a fossil fuel. I don't know about you, but the last time I went shopping, beef was expensive. And grass-fed beef, it's not a lot more money than grain-fed beef. Maybe it's time we should re-look at the system and change things around. I think the biggest obstacle that we have to face is that grass-fed beef tastes different and takes some getting used to. I love the flavor of it, more so the butter. The butter is fantastic. The problem also is that grass-fed beef comes from cows that walk around and their muscles are being used, which makes the meat just a little bit more tough. In my house, we only consume grass-fed beef and butter, and we love it. It really isn't such an acquired taste. It's pretty easy to get used to. Now, the butter happens to be far more expensive than grain-fed butter that you buy in a supermarket. But if you think about it, you're getting the concentrated version of whatever the cow is eating. So you gotta put a price on your health and decide whether or not you're better off eating grass-fed butter. You see, butter is a lipid, and every cell in your body is surrounded by a lipid. I did a video about that right there, and the link to that is up above and down below. So why go grass-fed? Because cream that comes from grass-fed cows is far healthier for you. It's also delicious. It's also loaded with omega-3 fatty acids. And most of the time, grass-fed butter is free from pesticides that are harmful, and almost always it's free from hormones and antibiotics. So why go organic? Well, organic products, especially in the United States, are guaranteed to be free from hormones and antibiotics and never contain synthetic pesticides or harmful pesticides in them. So really the best option for you is to buy organic grass-fed butter. Let's talk a little bit about these butters. These butters are a little difficult for me to find locally, so I went online to try to find them, and they're shipped to you refrigerated. So that makes the shipping really pricey. There were some other options on Amazon, quite a few, but in the form of what's called ghee. And ghee is simply clarified butter. And because it's clarified, it doesn't have any buttermilk in it, which makes it suitable for cooking butter with high temperatures. You can cook ghee at a higher temperature than you can regular butter. But to the best of my knowledge, ghee is not something you spread on toast. So I bought it thinking, let me try it and see if you could eat it raw without cooking with it, because some people just don't have the option, like myself, to get grass-fed raw butter locally. Okay, let's start with our butter lineup, and the first one here is my absolute favorite, Kerrygold butter, $6 a pound roughly on the market. It's delicious, it's fantastic. Costco sells it. I stock up on it when it goes on sale. My absolute favorite go-to butter. It is not organic, but it is grass-fed. It's made with Irish cream, not to be confused with Bailey's Irish cream. I guess cream from Ireland. Love this. But I'm also very excited to try this one. This brand is called Anchor. It's from New Zealand, and that one is organic and grass-fed. Actually, pasture raised, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, pasture raised. So, supposed to be superb, top-notch butter. Excited to try it. $10 a pound. I bought this one here. It's workingcowsdairy.com. Organic, grass-fed. Much more expensive. The most expensive out of all of them is $13 a pound. Want to see what that tastes like. Honorable mention, Cabot butter. Really nice butter. It's made from a cooperative of New England dairy farmers. They claim that it's antibiotic-free and hormone-free, not from grass-fed butter, but I understand that people are on a budget. This one is absolutely delicious, roughly $3 a pound in the supermarket, readily available in the Northeast. I'm not in the Northeast. I'm not sure if you can get it where you are. Really good butter. Now, I understand that I can only review butters that I can get my hands on in the United States. If there's a butter you love in your country, if you want to make an honorable mention of a butter, please leave a comment down below. Let's move on to the ghees. Like I mentioned earlier, ghee is simply clarified butter that you can store and use at room temperature. Again, mostly used for cooking. We're going to taste it today and see if it's any good. This one here is Organic Valley. It's made with organic milk. It's also pasture raised. It is very expensive, and it comes in around $19.19 a pound. I'm not really sure if you were to buy this locally, if it would be any cheaper. That's what I paid for it on Amazon. The next one is less expensive, also organic, grass-fed, Carrington brand. Comes in at around $12.13 a pound. This here is solid at room temperature. This is very liquidy at room temperature. I'm not sure why. Finally, last in the lineup, we have Fourth and Heart. It is not an organic butter, but it is grass-fed, and it is the only one out of all of these that is certified to be lactose-free. I thought that might be good for people who are lactose intolerant. It's kind of middle of the road. It's $16.27 a pound. Much kind of like in between almost, so slightly liquidy, but this is very solid. So let's give these a taste. Now I know what this butter tastes like. It's my favorite. I'm gonna taste it anyway so I can have a little bit of a reference as to what the other ones taste like. Kerrygold butter, I think may actually have aged cream. I'm not sure. It's absolutely delicious. It's got so many complex flavors in it. Such a great butter. If you haven't tried it, you gotta give it a try. And this one here now is the one I'm excited to taste. This one is the Anchor brand. I wonder if it can compete with the Kerrygold. Let's see. It's delicious. Not a bad butter. Kerrygold definitely tastes a lot better. This doesn't have as much flavor. Not disappointed, but I wouldn't want to spend the extra money on that. It's good that it's organic. This one is the Working Cow's Dairy. Give that a try. Sweeter. Got a nice flavor. I would go with the Kerrygold. The Kerrygold is delicious. I feel that the company is reputable enough. And they're very careful about how they harvest or collect the cream from the cattle, from the cow. Definitely delicious. Okay, let's move on to the geese. So the Organic Valley ghee it's really kind of thick. Interesting. The Organic Valley probably would be really tasty if you cooked with it. Not too bad on a cracker or toast. It has almost like a butterscotch flavor. I would rather have butter on toast, but I'm really excited to cook with this. The Carrington ghee, which is more like soup here. I'm gonna need a spoon for this one. It's like honey almost. Different flavor. Again, I'd be more excited to cook with it than I would be to have it on my toast. Last but not least, Fourth and Heart. That is very thick, like a butter. If I had to put one on toast, I would go with the Organic Valley. I think they'd be very excited to cook with all three. I've never cooked with ghee before. So what about the butter I made? I used organic cream, put it in my blender, turned up the speed in such a way that it wouldn't splatter all over the place. It basically turned to butter, and as it did, it released buttermilk, which means it splattered, so I lowered the speed to the point where all of that butter kind of clumped into the whisk. You could strain it through a cheesecloth. I didn't have a cheesecloth, I put it in a strainer. And I just kept rinsing it until the water that came off of it was clear. And you lay it on a piece of saran wrap or put it in a form. You could season it with salt if you want. You could season it with your favorite herbs if you want. Wrap it up, put it in the fridge. Absolutely delicious. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Hit that subscribe button. Make sure you leave a comment and a thumbs up on the like button down there. And I really appreciate you tuning in.